Hello, everybody. My name is Marsh, and welcome to my spoiler-filled discussion for Secret Project Number 1, Tress of the Emerald Sea. Okay, before we get started, if you could leave a like and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated, but let's go ahead and jump into the spoilers. Now, Tress of the Emerald Sea, where do I start? This book has crazy implications when it comes to the Cosmere, at least for me. I'm going to start out by saying one of the reasons I love this book so much was because we are being told a story by Hoid. We've always in Stormlight or even Warbreaker, Hoid is the storyteller. He tells us everything, but actually getting a full book from his perspective as the narrator and he's in the book was amazing. I felt like this was the first Hoid novel that we actually got to see. And so that made me extremely happy with that, because not only do I love Hoid like everyone else, but I felt like it was progressing the Cosmere with this. We were getting more story with Hoid than we've ever seen before. Before, he'll just drop in and help the characters and do things like that. But having him as one of the actual characters in the story, as well as the narrator, was extremely refreshing, and it felt like a step forward for the Cosmere. Now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the story itself, and then we'll jump into a few different things back and forth. I wanted to start by talking about the world that Brandon Sanderson created for this. I loved the way he created these spores and these different moons. So he said there's 12 moons, and I think it's like 2 to a pair. I couldn't remember exactly, but they basically, each moon has its own spore. So in the verdant sea or the green moon, they have these green spores or verdant spores that are essentially vines. And so whenever water touches them, the vines will blow up and turn into that. And so having each area have its own spore was very creative. I don't know how he always does it. I guess it could be, he gave us his formula in lectures, but his magic systems are just so interesting. And I wouldn't even say this is necessarily a magic system, more as it is how the environment reacts to everything. Because in a lot of cases, I feel like the environment itself was the biggest villain in this book, which leads me into one of the flaws of this book, which it's a flaw for some people, depending how you feel, but that's of the big bad. The sorceress, I feel like she was kind of just bad to be bad. We never got any backstory. Who is she? Why is she doing this? She was not a sympathetic villain, I would say. And she was kind of just a prick, to be honest. And that's like, I guess it's refreshing in the way that I feel like nowadays with Grimdark and everything, you can't have a big bad that's just bad to be bad anymore. But then a lot of people may not like it because there's no actual story or motive behind the villain. I think she was just being annoying to be annoying in a lot of cases with her curses. Before we talk about that, we'll go over some of the crew and everything that happened. So the story basically starts out with Tress talking about how she's an ordinary girl, and we get introduced to Charlie, her family, Charlie, her love interest, who, by the way, I predicted was Huck the whole time. Like the moment I saw Huck, and I think he mentioned the thing that like threw me off or like made it click. He mentioned like stories about princesses always kissing frogs. And I'm like, okay, this is a reverse on that. She's the princess and he's the prince that's turned into the rat in this case, or the frog if we're doing like Princess and the Frog. So I kind of predicted that from the beginning, and it made sense how he was trying to protect her the whole time, because he obviously didn't want her to get hurt. And even though he's sad because she'll never see him, in the end he just wants her to be alive and happy. He doesn't want any pain to come her way. And it makes sense. And so it's not super amazing of a twist. It was very predictable the whole time, especially at the end where he brings her to the sorceress, and then I guess part of the bet was she has to recognize him, and she's like, the sorceress is like, I told you so, when she like goes off with the fake clone Charlie. So it wasn't like an amazing twist, but I still enjoyed the overall flip that they did on the Princess and the Frog story with it. What I really enjoyed though was that of the crew that she gets on. I mean, no one cares about the first crew or all the Dougs. But when she gets on the boat, and for some reason I'm blanking with the name of the boat randomly, I apologize. I'll remember in a second. Or not, I won't remember it. We'll see. But she gets on the crew, and she has Fort and is it oh my god, I can't remember her name. I'm gonna get mad at myself. Fort Ann and the pilot girl. I really liked how Sanderson gave each of them their own backstory and like motivation and things to overcome. I really liked Fort's story with him being deaf. He's like the deaf friendly giant kind of thing. And he has an actual iPad like that he like talks on. So that was funny seeing like an iPad or like some type of tablet that he's talking on in this world of boats and everything, even though he has like a futuristic technology, which is normal for us. And so he's talking through this iPad because he's deaf, and everyone thinks it's like a magic sign or a magic board. And it was funny because they actually like killed the iPad at one point, and I felt sad for the iPad, like it was its own character, because it was like Fort's best friend. So when Crow smashed it and threw it into the ocean, I was genuinely sad for an iPad. I didn't think Brandon Sanderson would make me sad for an iPad. Thanks. But that comes back because of the dragon and everything. But that's like his story and everything. And like the sadness he felt when his iPad was destroyed was something too. And not only him, then you have Anne, who's actually blind, which I kind of like figured out because I'm like, okay, she's a horrible shot, but why? And then when she was doing the practicing with the cannon, I'm like, maybe she's just like, maybe she can't see. Because I'm like, how can you be that bad? And it turns out, yeah, she needed glasses. Because, I mean, if you think about it, in like medieval times, like poor people wouldn't have glasses. They don't know. They just have to suffer if they're blind, which is like a crazy thing to think about as someone who wears glasses and contacts. So I feel for Anne. I feel you. And then there was the ship, not the captain, but the harbor master, I believe it was. The one who steers the ship. I can't remember her name to save my life, even though I just read the whole book. And it's like I finished it 10 minutes ago. But she was trying to find her dad and everything the whole time. And I loved how Tress, in the end, when she was supposed to be sacrificed to the dragon, she instead decided to help everyone because she's empathy personified. Basically, that's Tress's character. She is super humble. She doesn't want to like admit she's good at anything. And then she goes on to this adventure to save Charlie, and basically is the most empathetic person ever. And I feel like he tried to make the kindest like protagonist that you could see. She like, people think she's lying because she's so truthful. And I just like thought it was kind of a breath of fresh air, but in the sense, I mean, she's not the most in-depth character. The most depth she gets is towards the end, where she's going away with the clone Charlie and she realizes, I don't know if I love this Charlie because I've changed. He's the same, but throughout my adventures I'm scarred and I changed. That was the most depth we got with her, and I did enjoy that. And that's what made it click for her to be like, wait, this isn't Charlie. Charlie's been with me the whole time. You know, the rat who's been telling me boring stories. Like, so that was good. And then in terms of the other crew, you had like Crow, Hoyd, and Olma, I think it was. The guy who is a shape changer. He's from, I think it was Captain Demo in Mistborn. I'm pretty sure is who it was. He's a world hopper. And he was funny. And I enjoyed his parts as well. He was a good little doctor with like his zombie ears that he's doing everywhere as one of the shape changers. And so that was interesting. They didn't have as much of a thing. He was sort of there just to be there because they're not supposed to interfere, I guess, as world hoppers. But talking about the Cosmere as a whole, now that I'm talking about world hoppers and Hoyd, we get Hoyd's story, and he's on this planet, and this is like a singular story from Hoyd. And then you see both the world hoppers. We learn more about the world hoppers in this than we do in like any other book, I would say. Just, I mean, it's still not much. It's still a mystery, but we learn they're not supposed to interfere. There's more than like one of them, such as the sorceress, Rihanna, I think they said her name was, at the end, who was light weaving. Brandon Sanderson said light weaving from Stormlight Archive. So that was pretty cool seeing the light weaving. And it was cool seeing like the powers mixing, and it's like you can finally see these universes coming together, I feel like. Because, I don't know, the spores reminded me of everyone's favorite character, Lift. At least the verdant spores with the vines, even though those like live on consumption of her food or Stormlight. But this is consumption of water for the spores. So that was interesting, seeing everything finally coming together when it comes to all the universes. And it made me excited because I felt like this was the first book that was a Cosmere novel. I don't feel like every other book you can separate. I don't know how that works for new readers who may not have read anything with the Cosmere. Will they enjoy this book without all the references, knowing who Hoyt is? I don't know. That's something that if you don't know what the Cosmere is, that'd be interesting to find out. But as someone who's read a majority of it, I haven't read everything, but I've read a majority: Stormlight, Mistborn Era 1, Warbreaker, and then some of the novels, that it makes it, it just makes it really exciting step forward. Because now, I don't know if he's going to do this with all the secret projects, but what if they're all a story from Hoyt or something like that? Or at least this one is. And I know 3 of them are Cosmere involved, 1 isn't, but it's just exciting because we're seeing it start to come together. And I always thought it was just going to be little hints the whole time, so I'm happy for the future. So I've been rambling a lot and just kind of going everywhere because I just finished the book and I just want to like get out there and talk about it. So if you've read the book already, let me know what your favorite parts were. Was there anything you didn't like? And Cosmere-wise, be careful with spoilers because some people may have not read everything. So don't try to like talk about plot with other books. If you're going to talk about stuff going across, please just keep it like Hoyt-centric, I'd say, for the most part. Like, don't spoil anything for anyone. We're just for the most part, let's focus on this story. Other than that, though, I enjoyed it. I had fun. It was a fun romp, a fun story. I like it better than Warbreaker, to be honest, as a standalone and for what it did. And it just has me excited for the rest of these secret projects. And as the Year of Sanderson says, it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be fun. Thank you for watching, though. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. If you could leave a like and subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.